name and your year?
My name is Carolyn Diamond, and I graduated in 1957 from the College for Women. Well, I'd like to talk about how Penn was back then. And my favorite thing was, my favorite story was that women were not allowed in most of the colleges, including the Wharton School. There were very few in the law school. The women either had to go to the College of Education or the College for Women. I chose the College for Women. Our classes were held in College Hall, mostly, and we were definitely not allowed into Houston Hall, which was the recreation center. We were only allowed in the grill, in the Houston Hall grill. So that place is huge, but the women were only allowed in one room. So I remember the segregation and, well, don't remember it happily. The other thing I remember is that I made a lot of good friends that I kept over the years, mainly women, and because we were segregated. In fact, when we graduated, even in graduation, we were kept segregated from the men. So it was just an interesting experience, but I got a very good education. I was a history major, and I went on to teach history eventually. And then, and I found that my education that I got at the University of Pennsylvania was very good and made it easy for me to get a job. Especially I was a woman, and a woman coming from Penn, well, oh, well, that was something. So that's primarily what I remember. And I had to commute every day to school. So I lived in the suburbs, so I would take the SEPTA, except it wasn't called SEPTA then, but it was SEPTA into Reading Terminal, and then I would have to take a bus. And that would be every day back and forth. And it was tiring, but it was interesting. And we would eat almost every day. We would eat in Houston Hall, just to more or less, because that was the only room we were allowed in. So if it was cold outside or something like that, and we brought our lunches or could have bought our lunch, that's where we went. There was a gang of us that were together. I don't remember any of my teachers. Anything else?
Tell us a little bit about what you did with your history degree.
Well, I went on to teach history in a high school, and then I was with the School District of Philadelphia, and then they decided to transfer me out to JPIP, about an hour away from my house, or maybe even more. So it was for racial segregation, for racial integration, and because at that time the school system was integrating its teachers, and I elected not to do that. So I went to work for Gimbel's, and Gimbel's, and then after that I went to work for Chase Manhattan Bank in their, I was a credit manager, and I developed computer programs to help to create new systems, because at that time the computers were becoming big news. And I had taught, before I left the School District of Philadelphia, I had taught people, students, how to use computers. That they were gifted youngsters, and at that time we were teaching gifted youngsters how to use computers, but the computers were the key punch type of thing. So I would teach them programming, and then they would type it into the typewriter, and it would go down to the Board of Education, and then it would be sent back to us. So that was interesting. And because of that, that means I could go to Gimbel's and then to Chase Manhattan Bank, because I had the computer background. And I had, when I got to Gimbel's, I had a Compact, which was one of the first portable computers, but a portable computer was this big. So I couldn't actually push it around. So there was someone to help me. And then after that, I went into business with my son, and I became a computer consultant and a computer trainer. So everything that I knew, when I say that I went to the University of Pennsylvania, well, that was an entree. So, and of course I was a wife and mother. They have to be prepared to listen. Keep their mouth shut and just listen. Because if I gave advice, I didn't know the law, so therefore that was the way back, but I was just more or less a sounding board. And occasionally he listened to my suggestions. And then he allowed me to, when things slowed down and he slowed his practice down, and since I was a computer expert, he allowed me to type his stuff for him. So then I learned a lot more law and how the courts worked and what went into it. So it was an education.